Consider the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin. Today we're going to be talking about lilies in this little section that begins chapter 20 of A Course in Miracles. And this chapter is called The Vision of Holiness. And the chapter actually was originally called The Vision of Your Brother. But now it's called The Vision of Holiness. In the using this version, the third edition put out by the Foundation for Inner Peace. Chapter 20, the Vision of Holiness. And this section that starts, section 1, is called Holy Week. Keep in mind that when Helen was originally writing down the dictation that she was getting from Jesus, it was, corresponding to the time of the year, and so when she was dictating this was in the springtime when Holy Week is, and Holy Week begins with Jesus entering Jerusalem, and I believe it ends with Jesus' crucifixion. I don't come from a Christian background, so I'm not as familiar with the holidays. But anyway, Palm Sunday, okay? Here we go. It begins with, Holy Week begins with Palm Sunday. So here we go. This is Palm Sunday, the celebration of victory and the acceptance of the truth. Let us not spend this Holy Week brooding on the crucifixion of God's Son, but happily in the celebration of his release. For Easter is the sign of peace, not pain. A slain Christ has no meaning, but a risen Christ becomes the symbol of the Son of God's forgiveness on himself, the sign he looks upon himself as healed and whole. This week begins with palms and ends with lilies, the white and holy sign the Son of God is innocent. Let no dark sign of crucifixion intervene between the journey and its purpose, between the acceptance of the truth and its expression. This week we celebrate life, not death, and we honor the perfect purity of the Son of God and not his sins. Offer your brother the gift of lilies, not the crown of thorns, the gift of love and not the, quote, gift, unquote, of fear. You stand beside your brother, thorns in one hand and lilies in the other, uncertain which to give. Join now with me and throw away the thorns, offering the lilies to replace them. This Easter, I would have the gift of your forgiveness offered by you to me and returned by me to you. We cannot be united in crucifixion and in death, nor can the resurrection be complete till your forgiveness rests on Christ along with mine. A week is short, and yet this Holy Week is the symbol of the whole journey the Son of God has undertaken. He started with the sign of victory, the promise of the resurrection already given him. Let him not wander into the temptation of crucifixion and delay him there. Help him to go in peace beyond it, with the light of his own innocence lighting his way to his redemption and release. Hold him not back with thorns and nails when his redemption is so near. But let the whiteness of your shining gift of lilies speed him on his way to resurrection. Easter is not the celebration of the cost of sin, but of its end. If you see glimpses of the face of Christ behind the veil, looking between the snow-white petals of the lilies you have received and given as your gift, you will behold your brother's face and recognize it. I was a stranger, and you took me in, not knowing who I was. Yet for your gift of lilies you will know. In your forgiveness of the stranger, alien to you and yet your ancient friend, lies his release and your redemption with him. The time of Easter is a time of joy and not of mourning. Look on your risen friend and celebrate his holiness along with me. For Easter is the time of your salvation along with mine. Holy Week begins with palms and it ends with lilies. The lily is a sign of purity and innocence. Jesus says that here. It's a sign of innocence. It's a sign of your innocence, your eternal innocence. The lilies are all throughout the Bible. There's something in the Psalms, in the Song of Songs. There's the famous line that I mentioned at the beginning. Consider the lilies of the field. This is I believe in Matthew. Or it could be in Mark as well. It's in the Synoptics, whether it's in all three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I'm not sure, but it's definitely in Matthew. Consider the lilies of the field; they neither toil nor spin. Jesus is trying to tell his apostles, don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry. Everything will be provided for you. Everything will be taken care of. Throughout A Course in Miracles, Jesus is harping on this idea that what we're really going for is the resurrection, not the crucifixion. The crucifixion has no meaning. Crucified Christ has no meaning, whereas a risen Christ is a symbol of the resurrection of God's Son. Now, he uses it in different ways, but the basic idea is that we do not need to crucify ourselves. Jesus' crucifixion, he says, was the last useless journey that needed to be taken. That was a great teaching device that Jesus gave. And essentially, from the Course's perspective at least, Jesus did not suffer. Why did he not? He did not experience pain and suffer on the cross. Now, let's leave aside the question of whether it really happened or not. I keep saying that it doesn't matter if it happened or if it didn't happen. Okay, everything is made up anyway. So whether it happened or not does not matter. It's the point that is being made is Jesus did not experience pain and suffer on the cross because he knew he was not guilty. He knew he was the Son of God. He knew, like all of us, he's not special. But he knew his true reality. He knew what he was. He was not suffering any illusion, and so he did not suffer because he knew the truth. So, and that was a teaching device because we can then look at that and say, well, if Jesus on the cross, and that's a horrible way to die, and not just, to be tortured and to die in that way is horrible. And we often, all of us, at different times, feel like we're being crucified. But, but Jesus really underwent, if the story is true, doesn't matter if it was or wasn't, but Jesus really underwent an extreme form of torture. And if he could do that, then we could do it as well. We can get through our own intense agony just as he did. And we can rise above it. We can overcome, and we can also not suffer just as he did, because we're not any different than Jesus. Jesus, in A Course in Miracles, Jesus is not way up here on some level that we could never attain, but rather Jesus is like an elder brother that has gone all the way. He's made it. He's made the journey. He's gone all the way with it, and he is now in a place where he can show us the ropes, so to speak. He can show us what he did to free himself. So we don't want to dwell on the crucifixion. which is another way of saying we don't want to crucify ourselves anymore, and we don't want to crucify others. And crucifixion is just a way of saying judgment. Judgment, condemnation, any form of making someone less than. It could also be putting someone on a pedestal too. It's the same thing. The inferiority and the superiority complexes really come to the same thing. We want to meet everyone on an equal level, including Jesus. They are us and we are them. There's no difference. So we want to go for the resurrection of God's Son. And the resurrection of God's Son comes when we stop crucifying. Crucifying ourselves and crucifying others. Meaning judging. And offering the lily of forgiveness, the white lily of innocence and forgiveness to everyone, everything. I want to mention, this was written in the time of Holy Week, but right now we're in a time of war. The world is always in a time of war. When has there not been a war in the world? Right now, there is a war between Israel and Hamas, which is, front page news every day for the last 5 weeks. I saw a great video yesterday. First of all, I want to mention I've been following the videos of this guy. I'm gonna butcher his name a little bit. Mossab Hassan Youssef, who is the son of one of the founders of Hamas. He is the son who basically he didn't intend to, but he became a spy for the Israelis. And then he also became a Christian. And he's not a Christian per se, he's more into the Christ consciousness. His videos are very, very worth watching, especially if you want a insider look at this whole conflict. And I really appreciate him and what he says. But I think the best video that I've seen so far was by an Israeli soldier who basically went out on a limb to say this is crazy. What Israel is doing is absurd in a sense. Now, I don't want to say, I understand what Israel is doing, and I can understand it. I come also from a Jewish background, and I sympathize with Israel, and I do think that Israel is doing something for all of us in trying to get rid of Hamas. But the problem is that, and this is what this Israeli soldier was saying in this interview, is that we think that exterminating Hamas is going to end terrorism. It's not. It's just gonna create another monster that's gonna raise its head at some point. There might be some relative peace for a while, but it's gonna come back, right? In some form or another. It might be Hamas, but it might be some other terrorist group. And they're gonna be really angry next time. Even more, and armed to the teeth. And now that it could be true, maybe not, But I like what this guy was saying in the sense, this really gets to the Christ consciousness, which is killing just begets more killing. Violence, hatred, all of it just begets more of itself. How does it end? And this guy was saying, there's got to be an alternative. And that's Helen and Bill, right? Helen and Bill. There has to be another way. There has to be, it can't just be about destruction, but you have to provide some constructive way for peace to flourish, right? For the desert to bloom. And Israel did make the desert bloom. And how can we make the desert bloom for the Palestinians? You know, how can we make the desert bloom for these people who really, in many ways, are oppressed? Partly oppressed by their own people, by their own, Hamas oppressed them, has been oppressing them. That's clear. But anyway, the point I want to make is it all starts with you. It all starts with each one of us finding the peace within ourselves, the inner peace. Inner peace really starts with letting go of the judgment, letting go of thinking that you are right and you have all of the answers and that you know. And not listening to others and not being open and criticizing and judging and basically writing people off. So, that's my little sermon about the war. This is a short section. The next section is called the Gift of Lilies. It's quite a bit longer. And we'll get there for next time. I also want to mention that I am reading the Gospels, and I'm on the Gospel of John now. I'm about to read more of the Gospel of John, and I'm gonna put it on this on this channel. And I think the Gospels are fascinating. And I'm going to be reading through more of the New Testament as well this year and into next year. I'm going to, after the Gospels, I'm going to do the book of Acts and then continue, with probably the letters of Paul. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.